Nick Byer. Welcome to this somewhat daily news backup for Wednesday, the 3rd of March. It's somewhat daily because we come at you somewhat daily every Monday and Wednesday live on Twitch with all the gaming news that's fit to talk about. Today I'm joined by Steph Ben Dixon. Steph, it's been a while since you and I did one of these.
I know. It's awesome and exciting, though. I've missed seeing I'm going to say, horses on a field on the picture behind you.
Oh, yeah. Horses. My daughter insists on calling them cows. So I made a stupid one. As usual, the Somewhat Daily Backup is brought to you by Hero Pocketeer Tim from the Learn Programming Academy. Get your exclamation mark Tims out in the chat because the Learn Programming Academy offers classes covering the entire range of programming that are easy to watch for all skill levels, and they're almost all $20 or less. Head to lpa.dev/backpocket to download the custom Backpocket info guide on everything Tim has to offer and become the coding genius you didn't know you always were. All right, Steph, let's get this started because this news is not going to break itself. And speaking of broken, the internet was broken yesterday because, and I've written down here, squee, which is the first time I've really ever used that, a blurry Elden Ring trailer was leaked. Andy Robinson from Video Games Chronicle reports that a leaked Elden Ring trailer is being actively circulated in online chat groups. VGC can confirm the video, which has been seen by VGC, but cannot be shared for legal reasons, is labeled as Bandai Namco Confidential and shows a significant amount of off-screen footage from what appears to be a planned gameplay trailer for the From Software title. The video leak represents the first significant update on Elden Ring since it was announced in June of 2019, and the first time anyone has seen gameplay outside of its publisher or developer. Steph, are you among these people who have now seen Elden Ring gameplay?
Yes, I mean I don't really play the Soulsborne games, so it wasn't a thing that I minded having spoiled. So I watched it. I was more interested in the fact that the original trailer was like a phone video of a TV screen that was just like super low res and blurry. But there are like algorithms that you can put footage like that through that upscale it to like 4K.
Yes,
it's amazing. How?
Look, I love the fact that you're more amazed that we could upscale video than like a developer can make an entire game about like from nothing. I'm just amazed that for those of you watching live right now, we won't actually be showing the footage for two reasons. One, we don't really want to get slammed with some sort of copyright notice, but also I don't think you deserve to see this. You are too pure and good. If you are a fan of these games, this is not the way that you should be seeing this footage, because I am shocked that in this day and age, you can even record in 240p. I don't know how that's possible, Steph. It is so awful looking. It's a skill.
But have you seen the 4K version?
I have seen the upscaled 4K version, and it definitely is better. And not just talking obviously about how it was filmed, but the trailer itself has kind of like, I'm a massive fan of the From games. I'm very excited by this game. The internet has been very excited by this, and the reaction was a lot of excitement, followed by what's the thing after an orgasm where it's like the French word for like little death?
Oh, le petit mort.
Thank you very much. Where I think the internet suffered a collective little death, where it was like, okay, we've seen it now, it exists, and it's kind of like all our dreams have been funneled into what is now the real thing. The amount of like dreaming and anticipation and creative thinking about what this could be has now been, no, it really is dragons, it's heavy armor, it's a very From Software voiceover saying, I can only imagine what drives you to seek the Elden Ring. I suppose you can't be talked into turning back. Very well then.
Sorry, but two people in the chat, when you were searching for the word post-orgasm, wrote post-nut clarity. Two people. Which means it's a thing that exists.
That is a thing. That's where I do my best writing. Every
One
one of the
them was
commercials.
Dusk Bunny, to be fair, so I feel like...
yeah, purveyor of filth. All of the back pocket commercials have been written during the Little Death. So the
It's
anyway,
too early, Nick. It's too early.
I watched this trailer. And to me, it was everything that I was expecting from Elden Ring. I feel like it's very From Software. It's like just people wandering around carrying maces, lots of dramatic sword holding. Even though the quality of the video doesn't look amazing, the quality of the game, the graphics, you could just kind of tell, like, the faces are that classic From Software where they're just kind of hideous looking. Everything looks a bit janky in the same way that those games generally do. But there is a sense of a more open world. You're riding a horse at one point. There's a lot more just open space where you're traversing across. So I know that you're not a massive fan of these games.
I'm familiar with the sort of look and feel of the games, and I would say that traditionally the games create beautiful fantasy and they even create beautiful kind of cityscapes, but they do also feel kind of like boxed in by a very stormy, overcast sky. And I think a larger, broader world would be, the biggest update to the kind of visual appeal of these games would if it felt truly epic in size and scale and expansive. What I find amazing too is that it's just like you can't put anything out there, even like in any form, without it being kind of like taken and enhanced. It just reminds me of that Henry Cavill Instagram post where he was like, I'm working on some secrets, and he had like a piece of paper in his hand that he blurred out, and then a bunch of people just put it through some like enhance software and were like, oh, it's Mass Effect, he's working on Mass Effect. In fact, people even identify, I'm sure you talked about this in a previous news, that he was just like a printout of Wikipedia.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that what it was? That's great.
Yeah, so I feel like he's just getting some research on the world of Mass Effect, but still, yeah.
The interesting thing about this is that there has been I've seen, because the Elden Ring subreddit has almost been famous for the fact that it's this enormous subreddit devoted to a game that potentially didn't even exist anymore because it went so quiet. And then seeing some of it's not necessarily backlash, but I guess kind of disappointment that it's very From Software looking. Obviously the game has George R.R. Martin helping in some way with the world building. This is the next generation From Software title that people may be expecting more. Were you expecting more from this, or is this open world, you being a fan of open world games, is this enough for you to at least go, oh, I'll see if I like this one?
I'm definitely curious about the George R.R. Martin involvement, because like I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, these games have like a story to them, but I wouldn't say the story is at the forefront of what you go to those games for.
I would say they have a lore more than a story.
Yeah.
It's about little secrets, and it's about the place and everything, but it's not necessarily like plot.
Whereas I feel like if they were to involve someone who's who's famous for writing very deep, convoluted, political fantasy dramas, I can't imagine why you would involve him unless it was going to be very story focused. Otherwise, it's just going to be pretty disappointing for people, wouldn't it?
And so like a waste of money for you.
Yeah. So I'm curious to know like how sort of story focused an RPG it ends up being, or if it's more just that they've got George R.R. Martin to write the backstory of the weird hag that you pass for 2 seconds in castle ruins.
I would hope that there is some deeper level involved there, and he's not just. I believe that his main job was fleshing out the background of it, but From have done a very good job of that in all their previous games. It's not like that was somewhere where they were lacking. Like, that is something that draws so many people back to these games, is finding all those little secrets. So hopefully there is something more involved there. This trailer was also quite an old trailer, apparently. Word is it was something that went out for investors over a year ago. It very obviously contains placeholder stuff in there as well, but there is talk that maybe we're going to see a March, so this month, reveal trailer that should be significantly better than this, and something actually forward-facing for the public. The fun thing I wanted to bring up with this, was PC Gamer had a brilliant article about this. James Davenport. I thoroughly recommend going reading it because he is talking about that now fans know what this is. It's kind of changed the way that they engage with this title. And I just want to read the last paragraph from this article. He said, "It didn't take Elden Ring long to outgrow a single trailer. Before the leak, Elden Ring was art, humor, and hope tingled with longing. Suddenly, God, in brackets, a cool dragon, appears in 240p, and all those fantasies we saw in the flames over the last 2 years take on a familiar form. It's no surprise that some people are grappling with a sense of loss and disappointment. Elden Ring is a video game now, a thing we grade on a scale, a thing we can finish. I'm happy to know it's tangible. I love From Software's games, but I'll miss the ongoing hysteria, and I'll miss the time when I truly couldn't even imagine it. Sure loved trying to, though." And I thought, that's beautiful.
That is beautiful. Something that's less beautiful is that Peter has updated the title of this story to Leaky Ring on the stream. So that's great.
So now this is it. Like we're talking about the fact that everything is coalescing now. The dream of Elden Ring is gone, and it's now just awful puns.
It's now just a bad pun.
There you go. Welcome to Back Pocket. Moving on now, and second story, breaking overnight. This one from Bloomberg and Jason Schreier. Hogwarts Legacy, the very storied Harry Potter adaptation, will include trans character customization. So Bloomberg reports that the next Harry Potter game will allow players to customize their character's voice, body, and gender placement for the school dormitories, taking a stride towards inclusivity after several recent controversies stemming from comments by series creator J.K. Rowling that were seen as transphobic. Steph, there's been a lot going on with this game, not only the Rowling stuff, but then the lead developer a couple of days ago, sort of like being outed, I guess, as a gamergator and having some pretty controversial videos on his YouTube page. Yeah. Is this enough of a step in the right direction?
I think it's the best possible thing they could do at the moment, to kind of reassure fans of this game that there are plenty of people working on it who are super inclusive and just want the best for this game and just want fans of this game to enjoy it in the way that they should be able to. I feel like I understand when there's negative sentiment around like a couple of people. You know, we've had a conversation before about J.K. Rowling, like, yes, she would have received some money for being able to use this property to make this game. But I feel like anytime something like this happens, you have to think about the like hundreds of developers that are working on this, that has made it their life's work for however many years. And, you know, it would be so unfortunate to let a couple of like shitty people ruin the experience that so many people put hard work into, not to mention the fact that Harry Potter universe like means so much to so many people. And there's a lot of conversation around the idea that, you know, your enjoyment of something shouldn't be dependent on, you know, one person. Even if J.K. Rowling created this world, you can still enjoy it in your own way. I think as well, like, it's kind of setting a precedent for character creation going forward. I think with Cyberpunk 2077, there was obviously like that was a world where they had the best opportunity to give you the option to create any kind of person that you wanted. Mm-hmm. And yes, in the character models, you could choose like a male character model and put female genitals on it and vice versa. But if you chose a female voice, then that would kind of identify identify the pronouns that you'd be referred to.
Yes, yeah, the voice you picked is how you picked the pronoun. Yeah,
yeah, which is kind of unfortunate because that obviously a lot of people want to have a different depth or to their voice and things like that based on maybe their own experience, and it's important to make everything customizable so that you can choose your voice, you can choose your pronouns, you can choose your everything. If you want to be able to make it a fully personal and customizable experience. So it was a bit of a misstep from Cyberpunk there. And I think this is kind of like the developers showing the audience, like we can create this experience for you aside from whatever like shitty people may be attached to this game in some fringe way or in a major way. Like this is still an experience that we want to be enjoyed by everyone in the best possible way.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, take what I say, I'm a straight white dude, so feel free to, you know, take what I say with a grain of salt. But I definitely think that this is, I think this is a really good step in that right direction. I think ultimately, there are just people who think shitty things all over the world in every single aspect of life, and you interact with those people whether or not you know it in every way, day to day. Like everything that you make, from the computer that you buy to the media that you consume to the shops that you go to and stuff, people with opinions that are awful or opinions that clash with yours are involved with making that.
Yeah.
But I think it's how those and I do believe that, as abhorrent a lot of that stuff is, people have the right to think whatever they want. But it's what you then put forward into the world. It's what you put out into the world that actually has the most impact. And I think that we've seen J.K. Rowling has, in every single way, proven herself to really just have some genuinely questionable to awful opinions, and then the lead developer on the game, one of the lead developers on the game, going down a similar track. But like you said, there's so many people in this game that obviously pushed for this, that went, no, we want to make sure that this game is actually inclusive of those people, despite the involvement of some people who don't necessarily share that opinion. According to the Bloomberg report, that members of the Hogwarts Legacy development team fought to make the game as inclusive as possible, pushing for character customization and even for a transgender character to be added. There was resistance from management at first, the people familiar with the project said, but currently the character customization is included in the game. So they basically went to management and went, we want this in there. Management were like, we don't know if we want that. And they went, no, like, this is important to us. And this is what the game is going to represent. Because the abhorrent things I think that some of these people think in their own life is not to lessen it, but that is not the thing that literally millions of people who play this video game will be exposed to. They will be exposed to what is in the video game. And if the trans character if there's a trans character in the game, you can make a trans character in the game, whatever sort of like story they're managing to put in there. I think that's the thing that ultimately will have more impact. And since this is also something that is canon to Harry Potter, it's now canon putting trans characters into the Harry Potter universe. So I think overall that I take that personally as a positive thing.
Yeah, I agree. And then I think it's also important to say that people can obviously react to this game however they want to individually. Like, people can choose to not buy it or support it. I think Nicotex made a really great point where he said, I'm hoping to donate the amount this game is worth to trans rights charities to offset the fact that I'm contributing to Rowling's bottom line, and I don't want the devs to be shafted. So that's a good way to put it. You can kind of make a donation as well. Or you can just not play it if it's something that that would bother you. But I feel like...
Absolutely.
I feel like I think it's the best thing that they could have done in light of everything. And I'm really glad that the devs who have been working on this, who feel passionately about this, have made that a priority for their game.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I could totally agree that everyone is completely entitled to their own reaction to it. And if you don't want to play that game, then like, I totally understand that. But yeah, I am definitely, I try to always look on the side of hope, and the fact that there are some, shitty opinions involved with the people making this game is being countered by the fact that there's obviously some people on this team who are going, no, we're going to stand up and fight against that. And that seems to, at the moment, be working out. So that's positive. And yeah, we'll continue. I'm sure this isn't the last time we'll hear some controversy regarding the Harry Potter universe or this video game. Moving on now to another controversy. This one, much weirder. The Sinking City was a video game that came out in 2019, and Vice Games reporter and Waypoint podcast co-host Patrick Klepek reported that things have gotten very weird for this game. It was initially pulled from the Steam store due to a publishing rights fight between the developer Frogwares and the publisher Nacon. This dates back to 2019 when Frogwares filed a lawsuit alleging Nacon tried to claim copyright of the Sinking City after its release, withheld milestone payments, and owed the developer around €1 million in unpaid royalties. Since then, the game has not been available for purchase on Steam. However, a couple of days ago, it popped back up, being available, much to the surprise of the developer Frogwares. Frogwares, the French developer of the Sinking City, accused publisher Nacon of hacking the code to the Sinking City and uploading a illegal version of the game to Steam and profiting from it. They then released the accusation and the evidence for it in a lengthy blog post and video. So have you been through this, Steph? Have you grappled with what's going on here?
Yeah, and I played this game when it came out.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. It's kind of a Lovecraftian sort of detective-y story, which is
Yes.
really interesting. I don't remember at the start if it had, because I've watched the video that the developers put out, basically saying like, here's what our version of the game should look like, and you can see in the version that's currently on Steam, they've removed all reference to our studio and other games we've developed, and they show a side by side comparison. And he was like, the only way they could have removed those things from the game is by like hacking it, which is so underhanded, right?
Yeah, and the way that they did that was that they bought the game from a different platform, from I can't remember the name, like Games Planet or something, some other storefront. They bought the game just like a consumer version of the game, downloaded the files, and then used a key there's like a key generator code that basically unencrypts the game, and then they go through and just swap out some of the pictures and logos and stuff, and then just send that to Steam and go, this is our game, and put it up. And it's wild. Frogwares had no idea that this was happening, and then obviously just woke up one day and it was on Steam. And then the studio alleges that in late December last year, Nacon offered an ultimatum to the developer. Frogwares had 48 hours to deliver a version of the game to be released on Steam, or else Nacon would, quote, use all solutions available within the law and the contract. Frogware claims that after that 48-hour period was up, Nacon purchased a copy of The Sinking City from Games Planet, there you go, the storefront where Frogworks is selling the Singing City itself, and uploaded an altered version of that game to Steam. And then Nacon have released a statement saying that Frogwares persists in disrupting the release of the Sinking City. They came to us for money. We helped pay for it. They relied on our promotion and marketing teams. And so therefore they're going, well, we were entitled to do this. So it's a extremely messy, and also just feels like a sort of amateur situation. It like the fact that they just kind of bought the game and changed a little bit and then uploaded it themselves sneakily. I mean, that's the kind of thing I would do. Like, that's how I would pirate a game.
It's absolutely crazy, and it's crazy that Nacon would do something like this and not expect like repercussions for it. If they have gone about this in such a back to front, like illegitimate way, it just feels like they're sort of asking for some sort of lawsuit, and now they've just made everything so much worse.
I also love the fact that because obviously we don't know all the behind the scenes of the contracts and that sort of thing. All of this is like all the prerequisite, alleged, apparently, without confirmation. I'm saying all this so we don't get sued. But I also just love the fact that Frogwares released this 10-minute video that is exactly like a YouTuber would release, explaining like the story. Like they went, well, we need to explain this story. This story is very complicated, so we're going to be the YouTuber that explains this story, and just like goes through a breakdown, like a 10-minute breakdown of like. But
like I get that looks like a sort of an amateur response to an amateur play, but at the same time, like I feel like they don't have any other option, right? Like if Nacon have not pursued the legal route to what they believe they're entitled to, it tells me that Frogwares don't expect any kind of legal resolution quickly. And so the best way to do that is to kind of draw media attention to this issue, and that would get the fastest response. And then also, even if you're not getting a faster legal response, you're stopping people from buying the game as it exists now on Steam in protest. So I don't know. I feel like it was the right thing to do. Oh,
I totally think it was the right thing to do. I just love that that's where they ended up. It's everything.
I love that they go into all of the the digital signature information and stuff like that, because I feel like gamers will appreciate all of that kind of nerdy depth to uncovering the secrets of this fraudulent affair.
Absolutely. And then the final part of this, which you kind of touched on there, it put Frogwares in a very weird position where they needed to come out on socials and release a press statement and stuff saying, please don't buy this game on Steam, because this is not, like, as weird as it is, this is not our game. We're not seeing any of the profits from this. So don't get it. It's a very messy situation. the real winner will, of course, as always, be the lawyers, and we'll see how this gets resolved. But yeah, wild story. Speaking of wild stories, someone reduced GTA Online load times by 70%, Steph, which basically is the number one problem with GTA Online. And they managed to do it with in about 10 minutes just by tweaking one file.
This is insane to me and makes me I feel like I'm having a sort of end of Sixth Sense moment where I'm going back through every game I've ever played and I'm wondering if there's a small file that could be adjusted that would stop the loading times being so painful.
That's so true, because so Molly Taylor at PC Gamer reported this story. It broke over on Reddit, I believe, and it was a GitHub user, Toaster CX, who uploaded the fixed code and also sort of said, this is a proof of concept. Don't just whack this in your game and expect this to work. But apparently the lengthy load times, because they could be several minutes. There's a point where you go, is this game even working anymore? Are attributed... Now, I don't understand this, but I am going to read it. Are attributed in part to some terribly optimized code and a 10 megabyte JSON file containing 63,000 item entries. Every time an item is found, the check then runs again and again and again. ToasterX estimated that this leads to around 1,984,531,500 checks it needs to do before it gets you into the game. And then that, alongside the fact that the game was only loading from a single core on Toaster CX's CPU, appears to be the biggest bottleneck. But after a couple of fixes that optimized the code, ToasterX was able to reduce the loading time to a much more digestible 1 minute and 50 seconds, a 69.4% improvement on the original time.
I so wish that Rockstar would comment on this and whether they were just amazed at what was possible, or if they're just no, we actually need the system to perform those checks. This is a vital thing that needs to happen to stop the game from breaking in other places that maybe, people haven't discovered yet and things like that. Because it feels, on one hand, I'm how could this happen? Is something that so fundamentally affects the experience of the game. But then the other part of me is well, Rockstar is a huge developer with so many people, and there'd be so many weird little files like this that people wouldn't know necessarily where the bottleneck is happening. And when you kind of open source information to people who are allowed to kind of dig around in there, you have more people able to find little hacks and tricks to these kinds of things. But imagine if they're all just sitting there at Rockstar being okay.
Yeah, well,
don't know why I didn't think of that.
I'm sure that they probably are, right? Because you would know that when you're creating something and it's live, so Rockstar Online is a game that is constantly putting out content. There'd be 4,000 bugs that have been coming in that are actual game breaking bugs and not just the load time is a while. That these little things are often something where you're I'll just get to that later. And even though it's Rockstar and they have all the money and they have all the coders in the world, you kind of just spend what's in your pocket. So you have all these coders, but all those coders are busy doing something. And this is just one of those things that just goes... It just slides under the radar until Toaster CX pops up. It's let me help you out. And then they're probably at Rockstar. They're just oh yeah, okay, great. This is actually an easy fix now because we didn't need to go find this. Now we just need to tweak it. They should name a villain in the game after them or something. They should name a gun
totally.
the Toaster CX.
Yeah, or at least
really quickly.
At least a stripper or someone.
At least a stripper, Steph. It's the very least they could do. That is a wild story and a very good story, I feel to end on with that. I really do hope that Toaster CX gets their dues. But that is all the news that was worthy to talk about today. Steph, let's back it up!
Yay!